been talking about how to, or what is morality, how to develop it, and why it's so important. And we saw that if we treated morality as a baby, we saw that morality needs two parents, mindfulness and alertness. And then, of course, we also saw that mindfulness and alertness needs to bring food to feed morality. And the four foods for morality were the four Brahma Vihara, or the four immeasurables, or the four sublime virtues. And they are, again, as I said, compassion, loving kindness, selfless joy, and equanimity. And the word equanimity, all of you need to learn as well. That word is not being used a lot in English, even though it is an English word. But I find that a lot of people who study or listen to Dharma talk misunderstand that word equanimity. Equanimity means an unshakable mind. But if I say unshakable mind, people can also misinterpret that. Some people go, well, if somebody do something wrong to me, unshakable mind means I just don't react. I don't do anything. Although it's correct, it can still be wrong. Does it make sense? So you see a lot of Buddhist people who tend to say and do nothing much. They sit back and they just ignore everything. And they're thinking that they are economists. That's not what the Buddha means by being economist. For many of us, especially Asian people, we tend to just observe things. We don't take much action. If we're sitting in a, say for example, we're sitting like now, some of you are sitting as students. Typically, if you're in a Caucasian world, like a world where more white people are around, they have more questions, they have more engagement, right? And for Asian, if you compare them to Asian people, they tend to sit more quietly, more non-reactive. Now, it can be both groups of people can be wrong. And both group of people can be right, depending on the context. But let's assume that the question was the right type of question when it's needed to be asked. So when they were asking questions, they're active and they're alert. They do it in the right time and right moment. And the Asian people are still sitting there quiet. When they're supposed to have a question in their mind, in their heart, they may stay quiet. They won't ask. Who is more correct in equanimity? Who is more correct in being unshakable mind and heart? Do you understand my question? It's a bit hard, not quite getting it?
They don't quite understand.
Okay. So supposing, I rephrase again, you have more white people sitting with you. Yes? If you do, they often have more questions that if you give them an option to ask questions, they have a lot of hands up and they have a lot of things to say. But the Asian people will tend to look more quiet, more stable, more equanimous, which means non-reactive. So you stay quiet. So who's more correct here in terms of practicing equanimity? Asian people or the white people? When the teacher asks, are there any questions?
Mrs. Sharma said white.
Okay. Mrs. Sharma said white. Can I have a reason? You can actually enable the microphone and speak through.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I thought the white because if you've been asked to raise questions or ask questions, then the time is right. And if you have a doubt, you should ask the question.
That's right. Thank you very much. And as long as they ask question with no ill will, with no hate in their heart, then their mind is equanimous, their heart is stable, unshakable. I hope that makes sense. So what Mrs. Sharma said is very right. The time is right. So don't remain doubtful in your mind by keeping it inside. Okay, so equanimity sometimes means you have to be active in your talk. Express your confusion and doubt so that the group can come to the same page, the same understanding sooner. Understand that? Okay. Moving forward. Now, morality, maintaining morality is not easy. Imagine you have to be mindful all the time. The father have to be always vigilant, always actively looking for things. And then the mother of morality, which is alertness, had to be active all the time. Do you think it's easy for a person to use their mindfulness and active and alertness to keep guard of their morality? It's not easy. But let's assume that they've done it. Most of the time they get it right, and so their morality start growing. As morality start growing, it needs more than just mindfulness and activeness to keep morality going. Isn't that right? I mean, to nurture it, we know to nurture morality, you need this 4 sublime virtues, or the Brahma Vihara, as the Pali phrase call it. You need to give it loving kindness, compassion, selfless joy, and equanimity. I'll give you an example. This morning, before you came in, I was observing my staff setting up this, and I'm hoping that they can actually systematize and do things very efficiently. And as I observed them, they're repeating the same mistakes as some of the mistakes are still the same. I got a little bit, I guess my equanimity was tested. My patience was tested. So then I can feel a little bit of ill will arising in my heart, thinking, why can't these people get it right? So even trying to bring the food to feed my morality was hard already. That means it's similar to everyone else. But let's assume we keep doing it. We watch our mind. In mindfulness, I use my mindfulness to watch my mind. I use my alertness to keep my ill will from coming up. I look at other things that my alertness says, okay, they are learning, let them have time, that's okay. They're struggling, they're having loving kindness to try and help everybody, that's fine, let them make the mistake. So that allows me to calm down. But most people will not do that that well. But assuming that you practice it like that, you keep on doing that, then your morality is growing. Your morality is growing bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, so as morality gets bigger and people start to look at you, remember at the very beginning lesson, the first lesson, we said that the best adornment, the best clothing, the best garments or best decoration that you can wear is not jewelry, it's not gold, it's not diamond, it's not the best fashion, the most expensive fashion that you can buy. Actually, it's morality. But as your morality grows, it takes more out of you. It takes more to maintain it. Okay, so this is a hard question to actually, not hard question, it's a hard topic to actually to dig into when morality gets bigger. Okay, so if I keep the analogy of morality to just a baby, at this point, beyond this point, it's going to be very hard for you to understand. All right, so now let's assume that our morality, our baby morality, has grown to what we now shall call a teenage morality. Much higher level, much stronger. Okay, so imagining that our morality has gone much stronger and more capable, it's not so fragile anymore, it's more mature and it has the strength to bear greater responsibility, produce more richer, more wholesome fruits. In this stage, I am now going to introduce a new analogy to you. We're going to compare morality now to fertile land. This is actually the analogy that Buddha used himself. Fertile land. I want you to think for a moment. Why did Buddha compare morality, when it's grown big enough, to fertile land? And look at the picture on the PowerPoint. A fertile land is land where it can support a lot of life. It's got, rich nutrient soil. It's got plant life, grasses, towering fruit trees, stream water soaking deep into the earth, sustaining both plants and animals. It gives life. It gives balance and harmony. It gives. It has available water, air, fresh, lots of lights in the system, supporting birds, insects, mammals, microorganisms. Everything is living well and breathes life into everything that it touches. That's fertile land. So when the Buddha compared morality to fertile land, what do you think? Why do you think that is the case? Well, if a person, one singular person whose morality is so high, who is able to support so many things around them, yeah, with their morality. If their morality is big, that means they can support so many people, even a community. Now, if you're big, if your morality is big, like Buddha or like Jesus is not as big as Buddha, but his morality is very big as well. He can support people, they both can support people around the world. People depend on them. So can you see that if your morality grows big, you have somewhat become a hero to people around you? Because morality allows you to serve, to protect, and to uplift so many people. Mindfulness and alertness, just that alone is not going to be enough to sustain your morality when it's grown that big. But you still need it though. Okay? Yes, so question or input from Mrs. Sharma?
Mrs. Sharma says equanimity gets really tested if someone starts taking advantage of you and they know you are not going to behave the same way, so they can harm you and you won't react then. What does the Buddha say to do then? They are coming from selfish motive and not loving kindness.
That's a good question, but I'm leading into that. My answer to you to that question is coming on if you can focus on what I'm saying here. So that question will be answered through this teaching. All right, so we're back to a new analogy of morality. We're not going to treat morality as a baby human anymore. We're going to treat grown up, a bit more bigger morality as a fertile land. So here's a question. What kind of nourishment is needed to sustain and strengthen morality that has grown powerful enough to serve and protect many? Who can help? Mindfulness and alertness alone is not enough now. Your morality is just like the land earlier. The land, remember the land. You're rich in air, oxygen, water. Soil is nutritious. What kind of food now can feed that kind of, that can sustain that kind of fertile land or bigger morality? A hard one, isn't it? This is similar to what Mrs. Sharma is asking. Now, the fertile land that the Buddha used, if you use that analogy, you can think about it. What do you think you need? Let's ignore the morality for a moment, just go to land. And you know, if you have a garden at home, you make your garden fertile by taking care of it. What does it need in order for the garden to continue to be very fruitful? What does the garden need? Well, let me put to you. Sunlight, do you agree? Lots of sunlight. You need lots of fresh air. Plenty of water. True or not? And who is supplying, who is buying the sunlight? Who's buying the fresh air? Do you buy the sunlight and the fresh air to give to your fertile land? Where do you get it from? Did you buy it or is it free? It's a kind of rhetorical question. The answer is free, isn't it?
Free.
Nature gave it to you for free. So then, in the same way that morality has developed and grown to a big size like the land, human being needs generosity to satisfy that noble hunger. So this is the answer to your question, Mrs. Sharma. If you want to know what the Buddha said, it is generosity. And you didn't ask about morality, you asked about equanimity. But equanimity, remember, is a food that we feed our younger morality. You said that when people test us, when they take things away from us or take advantage of us, perhaps we see it that way. Perhaps maybe our generosity is not big enough. You know, sometimes if we address that question, and this is not what the Buddha said, I'm interpreting, I'm delivering more messages on behalf of the Buddha as his disciple, as his student. What you said earlier, when you talk about people taking advantage of you, well, if you are lacking the wisdom and you allow a cunning person to take advantage of you, and then can you see how the lack of generosity can play here or not? Because at that moment, it breaks our morality. Because the moment it tests our equanimity, it's also breaking our morality if our equanimity is broken at that moment. Can you see how it's lacking generosity here? There's so many different answers here that can be correct. For example, if we come to accept that our wisdom was not high enough and our ability to discern the personality of the person that we dealt with who took advantage of us, if we fail to discern that correctly, whose fault is it first? Is it their fault or is it our fault? Mrs. Sharma, it's your question.
Yes, Mr. Paul. Are we saying here that we should not focus our mind on where they're coming from? We should just be generous anyway and keep our morality high?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Well, it's not exactly that. I'm actually going a bit lower. What I'm saying to you is that if they have managed to take advantage of us, now we look at something much lower than just morale, much lower down morality. We first look at our own wisdom and our own ability to discern. We should not go forward and not ignore everything. That's not what the Buddha said. The Buddha says to discern, which means to use wisdom to tell the difference between right and wrong. So we have been taken advantage of because we have failed our ability to discern. So I'm saying the opposite to what you're saying. To discern. But I'm saying we have failed our ability to discern well. Therefore, that person has taken advantage of us. Does that make sense?
So when we say we failed to discern, does that mean that we've done wrong in not reacting? Sorry, I'm confused because what do we mean by discerning correctly? Like we really correctly know that they're coming from selfishness, they're not coming from loving kindness. That's very clear. So where have we failed then?
What is the meaning of the word discern to you? Let's just get on the same page together first with that word.
Like to differentiate, to know exactly what's right, what's wrong, to
yes, to be able to tell the difference.
Yeah.
To be able to tell the difference, yes? Good.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that, okay, if we look at a person, not everybody is going to be selfish. But generally, there's a high percentage of population that are more selfish. I agree with you. Right? So when we go into the world and we fail to tell the difference whether that person's acting out of greed or acting out of generosity, we end up getting hurt. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
if they're greedy, and we fail to distinguish or to tell the difference. Yes. So if we fail, which means we're active, we're not non-reactive here. We're not passive. So everybody do that. There are some people who doesn't do that much, so they look very passive, and then they get taken advantage of. And that's not what the Buddha said is correct. The Buddha says in the world, as a worldling, as a layperson, and even as monks, you need to use wisdom to tell the difference. Now, if you fail to tell the difference between good people and bad people, we are going to be very doubtful to everybody. We're going to be very apprehensive, which means we're going to be very careful. We're watchful to everyone. And we may not believe them we may not believe that most people are good people anymore. Is that a fault of the other people, or is that our fault? That's a simple question first.
Yeah, it's definitely our fault if we have failed. But my question was more around, if we haven't failed and we know clearly that they're coming from greed or selfishness or, not
Good.
non-generous,
okay,
then what do we do?
Yeah. In that case, when you see that clearly, when you see that they're coming from greed and from ill will, if you have compassion, you look at the different side. Can you see with wisdom, can you see that these kind of people have suffering?
Yes.
Then can we ask ourselves, I should have some compassion for these people. They are already suffering, and they're always suffering. Their greed is actually causing them to go into suffering. Their ill will is causing them to go into suffering. So now, through generosity, you might be able to act with loving kindness towards them. It doesn't mean you give them everything they need. Like, for example, if your child is actually wanting things, let's go turn it to a parent. The parent look at the child and go, oh, he just wants this, wants that. They're greedy for these things to make them happy. They want a game. They want me to buy them a game. You can see that if when parents see that, sometimes they go, well, if they don't get the game, they're in pain. So now the question of what we have to do is, do we go and buy them, act generously and say, let's just buy them a game so they don't stay in pain? Is that the right wisdom? Is that the right discernment?
No,
that's right. But many parents will do that, don't they?
Yeah.
They do that for many reasons. If their child is young, below 2 years old, if the child cried, then the parent will buy it so that it can stop the crying. If the child's a teenager, they may buy it so that they want to make their children happy. So that, for what purpose? We know it's wrong. What do you think is the purpose of the parent? Why do you think the parent motivates to buy them teenage children the games that they want, or the mobile Apple phone the new Apple phone they want? Why do you think the parent do that? Even though they know that it's not the right thing to do.
They're not discerning correctly in that case.
Yes, but what is it? How are they discerning wrong? That's what we want to get into.
I think they're just going off by what other people are doing, maybe too much influenced by them, or they're not doing the right effort that you mentioned in your lesson 2. That's not the right effort.
That's right.
They're not following that. Yeah.
And also what you said as well, their view of the world is not right. Sometimes they may look at their friend's family, or if their friends bought their children a mobile phone, a new Apple phone, and then they want to show off to their friends as well. They say, oh yeah, I've just bought my children a new Apple phone too. So sometimes the parent themselves are corrupted by their own greed. Right, so generosity is not, we have to discern that very carefully. I'm going a little bit off the topic because I can't go too wide yet, Mrs. Sharma. I'm just trying to teach the fundamentals of things first, and then we get in, and then we can go and answer general questions like this. It's not really big, but it's just general question. But I hope you understand what I'm saying there. If I have not answered your question enough, you can ask a bit more. I can maybe give more information. But your question is leading to what we're talking about here. If people is breaking your equanimity, perhaps you have to come back to your generosity first. And yes, you might say, well, if I'm generous, I might hurt myself more. But then don't forget wisdom or discernment. Yeah?
Yep.
So coming back here, if your morality has grown big, you're going to be tested, like what Mrs. Sharma said. If you meet someone who's greedy, who come and take advantage of you, then you can get angry. When you get angry, you lose your equanimity. When you get angry, you lose loving kindness. You lose compassion. So constantly use your mindfulness and alertness to watch your mind and watch your heart. So the moment you go and do what they're doing, then you are becoming like them. If you become, if you have hate, towards the person, you would also stop giving them. Your generosity is cut. So your greed is also activated with you not even knowing that you're acting out of greed. So then your land, the fertile land that you are, is starting to die now. So in this analogy that I'm trying to finish off, when a good land has free sunlight, free fresh air, free clean flowing water, that land will continue to flourish. In the same way, morality needs generosity from the person to be able to continue to allow the bigger morality to grow its noble path. So generosity should not be just something that's in your mind, though. Generosity should not just be something that's not touchable, that's not seeable. It should be something that is tangible. Tangible meaning you can touch it, you can see, and you can, it can be embodied through your action, through your speech. It is generosity that fuels a person to continue with the 4 sublime virtues, the 4 Brahma Vihara. If you don't have generosity, your compassion, your loving kindness, your selfless joy, and your equanimity will be broken easily. I'll give you an example. A story which I read about once and also saw in a movie. I remember Gandhi, he was in one of his days when he was moving around India, and he was rushing to try and get onto the train. And as he rushed to get onto the train, one of his slipper, the thong, fell off onto the railway track. It got caught. So as the train continued on and he saw that the slipper was there, he took off his other thong and he threw it in the same direction. He threw it into the same direction as the one that fell off. Can I ask you parents out there, why did he do that? Why do you think he did that?
So someone who finds it gets the other pair?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. He was acting out of generosity. So if anybody found that one pair that he cannot get to, he threw the other pair so that the other person can make use of both thongs. That's a very powerful quality of generosity and morality. Now Gandhi, although his morality is not perfect, but it's very high for a layperson compared to the average layperson. He's very high. He used his high morality to free India without having a massive war that would have taken hundreds of thousands of lives. There were lives lost, but it was minimal. And the freedom of India came from the fight using morality by the Indian people, led by Gandhi. This is an example of high morality that was nurtured constantly by generosity. Is that clear now, everyone? I've introduced the second version, the higher analogy for morality as it's gone bigger. And this is the analogy which Buddha himself gave. He compared morality to land. So let's dig into that a little bit more. If a person who have poor morality, what type of land would they be? Unfortunately, I don't have a PowerPoint picture for you. But can you imagine a person with poor morality? If we use the Buddha's example, a person with poor morality, what type of land would they be? It's clear, isn't it? It's one that's opposite to the fertile land that can support lots of life, that can breathe the life into anything that comes on it. So one that is arid, like a desert, a place that's been dried out, no rain, nothing can live. So if you look at people who are quite immoral, they're full of greed, they're full of hatred, ill will, they think that they can support a lot of people. But the reality is they may be able to support a small group of people around them only, who are also immoral, and they won't last long. Right? So people who's immoral, their quality of life cannot support many. Their land is very poor. Nobody goes around them eventually. They may be a good liar at the beginning, they may con a lot of people, but eventually they will be exposed. I mean, I've seen people who are religious people who has tricked and taken advantage of many followers. They live a good life for 10, 15 years, some of them, but ultimately still end up in jail, and a lot of people end up broke. And some of those leaders actually let their followers, disciples, commit suicide because they knew it was just a bad ending coming soon by the law. So even if you see some people in the short term acting out of greed and they become rich, and you might go, oh, they're rich, but you yourself look down on them if you know they're a bad character. You know that. So this analogy by the Buddha of morality to land, I think it's beautiful. Immorality means bad land. Morality is very high, fertile land that breathes the life into everything that comes on it. And what feeds that is generosity. So if you want to keep your morality going, you have to nurture, you have to grow your generosity. Buddha said that a person who is generous and with their truest intention, they cannot be poor in their life, in this life as well as next life. And Mrs. Sharma, in your question, I'd like to go back to that question again. When your equanimity was broken, in those past, have you ever noticed how your mind went? If you studied your mind, were there times when you looked at yourself and you said, well, it's similar to Gandhi, or Gandhi, nobody took advantage of him, but if you felt sorry for the person who took advantage of you, should we raise an actual example, real life example? Are you open to vulnerability? Sometimes a real life example is a lot faster.
I think it's just day in, day out, when you are acting from that loving kindness, people know you eventually, and they know you're not going to react, doesn't matter what. And sometimes, work examples or anywhere, like there's so many examples, like they just know your character and they know that doesn't matter what I do to this person, they're not going to react. And as you said, it's really hard, and you get to a point where you go, I know that this person always takes advantage of me. So then you start to lose that equanimity, and you go, if I don't do anything about it, they're not going to change.
Right. I think what you talked about there is the kind of equanimity that the Buddha did not mean. You repeat a lot that you did not react. I'm not sure. It might be right. You may not be dwelling into it, but just allow me to assume for a moment that your non-reaction means that you didn't actually take the compassionate step to teach them, and the loving kindness to teach them the right way, because you might be afraid that they be hurt. I don't know. There's so many possibilities, so if I'm wrong, please forgive me. I'm just creating a scenario where you might, this is what you got to be very careful. Everybody's got to be very careful here, the non-reaction. Many Buddhist teachers say, don't react. Well, can you imagine, I just stay normal, and many people have wrong action as a teacher. I just don't react to my students. What do you think will happen to my students? Will they continue doing what they're doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious they're going to continue.
Mm.
Because you see, if we have compassion and wisdom, we know that these people have ignorance. That's why they can't see the better path. But if we are wiser and we can see they're doing wrong, but we don't react, we don't act to help them out, to teach them, to tell them the truth. Tell them the truth means teach them. That's the hard part. So if this person's your friend or your children or your loved one or your relatives, and you keep quiet because you don't react, you choose not to react because you think that's what morality look like. You're meant to look like you're a good person. Yes, they will remember you, that you're a nice person. You let them take advantage of you. In fact, a foolish person will continue taking advantage of you because they think that you are a fool instead of wise. They think that, oh, they're so dumb, they don't know what to do, so they never know that what I did to them is wrong because of no reaction. I'm just creating all this possibility. I'm not saying it's your case, Mrs. Sharma, but that's a possibility that the wrongdoer could be seeing, that you have no idea whether it's right or wrong because you don't react. You have anything to say?
If I may say that you don't react because they're not in the right state of mind to listen to you then, and more often than not, they're coming from anger or they're not in their positive self, or if you can understand, they're not in a situation at that moment to understand, even if we tell them the right thing to do. It might be different for students. It might be, that they're doing something wrong and we are able to tell them, or our children. But if it's like more people who are probably at the same status as you, or in general, your friend, they might be coming from anger, or they might be telling you something or wanting something of you from a selfish perspective, but they're not in the right state of mind for you to tell them the right thing. That's when I think it gets broken, or you're just forced to not react at that stage because you know that they're not going to understand where you're coming from.
Yes. Some of the things you say is valid, but the question of context is something I'm not sure. So allow me to just generalize based on a context. You know what I mean by context? Like, I don't know the real situation.
Yep.
So, like, for example, if you say it's not the right time, do you actually follow up when it's the right time? Do you actually follow through to tell them that they're wrong? Sometime later.
Yeah, with some people it is possible, but with some other people, as you're saying, a lot of people just are angry all the time. You just never find a time to tell them, but then they keep taking advantage of you.
Then
so you're coming from compassion. Yeah.
Then the question that the Buddha would put to you, right? I study the Buddha a lot. The Buddha advises like this. He says that if you know you're hanging around a fool, it's better to walk a different direction.
Yeah, that's what I think I was asking, that what do you do in that circumstance, that you've tried enough, or you've tried to be compassionate and thinking that they're suffering and you can clearly see that, but they don't change, so, or you can't make them understand. Yeah.
If you have take genuine effort to tell them the truth, to teach them that they're wrong, and they continue to do so, but you got to take the genuine effort first. You can't say I stay quiet and not reactive and have not taught them yet. But if you tried to genuinely teach them and over and they don't change, Buddha advises to walk away from the fools. You rather walk alone. And sometimes maybe that person is foolish, that's right, but we also don't have enough wisdom yet to help them out. Because the ability to teach people and uplift their mind depends also on the person's wisdom. So
Can I
when
ask
you
you?
walk away from the pool and one day you maybe have higher wisdom and you might want to turn back and say, oh, let me go and help that person. Yeah, go ahead, do it. That's out of loving kindness and compassion. So I hope that helped. If you want to
Yes.
know what Buddha said.
Mr. Pal,
Yeah,
we have
thank
another
you.
question. We have
Oh.
another question from parents here.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's as the answer satisfied is you should change the direction, but it's easy with the friend. But I find out it's hard if they are the family member. So can we also walk away with a family member if they keep doing the wrong thing and keep taking advantage of you so many times, and when you're trying to help they still get angry, and they keep saying like, oh, as you are learning to Buddha you always have to be kind, and you can be angry or can be say no to when someone need your help, something like that. They assume that as a Buddha's disciple or learning about Buddha Dharma teaching, you should always remain calm and something like that. And they keep angry, and they are very close family member. So it's really hard to change the direction or walk away. I find out it's hard.
Yeah, what you say is very true. I think everybody, including you, not just you, but also me, find it very hard to walk away from close family members. And I even have my own personal experience. It's very simple. You see, when we have close people, we want to help change them. The reason why it's hard for us is because of that relationship is very, very, very valuable. Isn't that right? Now, the question you have to ask yourself is this: why is it hard for me to help them? Is it because my wisdom is not high enough? Have you asked yourself that question? Because the key to every problem solving is the level of wisdom you have. So if you know that your wisdom is not high enough yet, because you have tried to teach them, to help them, to explain to them, and they still don't get it, walking away from the loved one, and I don't mean, I hope you're not talking about, children or husband, or you don't walk away. Walk away doesn't mean divorce, okay? But you walk away from that situation. Now, if it's not a husband, if it's a husband or children, you can really not run away. You have to go back in and try to increase your wisdom and then talk to them, explain to them. But you got to watch your heart all the time. But even in the extreme case, okay, in the extreme case where a husband and wife, I'm just going to use husband and wife, it's very hard for children and parent to walk away from each other. But even that happened. But for husband and wife, if you are trying to explain to them so much so that they still don't get it and they still have anger and they still have greed, then yes, walk away means go away first. It's painful, but you have to ask yourself, why is it painful? What's causing the pain in you to walk away from that person? Is it because you also need them? But sometimes, even though you need them, by walking away, it's what Mrs. Sharma said earlier, it's an expression of extreme silence, extreme not talking. Do you understand what I'm saying? Sometimes your presence there allows them to think that you're always going to be there. They can always express their greed onto you. They can always express their hate onto you, even though you try to explain to them. They don't want to hear anymore. So by walking away first, but in your heart, you say to yourself, I'm going to walk away, then I'll come back sometime later. Maybe the time when this person is going to try to develop a bit more morality for themselves, maybe a bit more wisdom for themselves. Make sense? So if you're not willing to give that medicine, that's quite a hard medicine. You know what? I give you one of the biggest. There's only one punishment that Buddha do. There's two punishment. That the extreme punishment we won't talk about. The one punishment in the monks, okay, what they do is this. This is Buddha's rule. if a monk do wrong all the time, not a big wrong where he's kicked out of the monk order, just wrong enough, and where the Buddha pull him up, and then the Buddha have to teach him. So other monks teach him, but he won't listen. The other monks have to tell the Buddha. Then the Buddha would tell the other monks and say, go back and not teach that person. Don't talk to that person. Don't say anything to that person. Don't deal with that person. Leave that monk alone. So your question just now reminds me of what the Buddha said to his monks. Why do you think the Buddha said to not talk to that person, to not deal with that person?
To me, I believe like everybody have a different journey and everybody have a different time to be awakened. So, as they are one of our lovers, so we're trying to help. But if they still refusing, so I think it's not the right time. So maybe I'm not the person can awake them or can help them out, but in the future maybe someone else. But if I'm keep insist in helping them and they don't like it, so I think I wouldn't get more harm for myself. So it's also called as an unawesome action.
Yes, that's right. You identified one thing right yourself there. It's not the right time. But the other thing is, if you're close to them, you can't walk away. And when you keep talking to them and not keeping quiet, it's like, when you talk about, you keep talking, it's like, have you ever heard of the saying, it's like pouring water on a duck's head or on a duck's back? Have you tried to pour water on a duck's back? It doesn't stick. The duck's back, let the water slide off. So there are many reasons. One of your reasons there is correct. You got to sometimes realize, okay, maybe this person, I don't have enough wisdom yet. Maybe they don't have enough wisdom to listen to me yet. There are, what you say is not wrong, but there's a whole lot more. And I give you an example. You have children. I'm not sure all of you have children. When they were babies, sometimes babies cry, right? You remember when your children was like, just came to you in the first year? Sometimes you're so tired at night and the baby keep crying. Have you ever ignored your baby's cry? Some nights have you just stopped and just don't do anything and not go to them? Has any of you as parents done that before? For those parents who've done it, I'm quite sure that if you do it the first time, you feel really painful inside because you're not walking to them, right? But if you do it a bit more regularly, you are actually training your baby to not be so demanding. And so they eventually stop crying. Does it make sense? So sometimes by being there, you are still giving the person what they want. You don't have to be there for them all the time so much if they're not listening to you. So when you don't go and give them what they need, which is you, they will start changing themselves. Okay, so if they're really close to you, doesn't mean you disappear you can come back when it's the right time, as you said.
Mrs. Sharma said that is the answer to seclude them so they have time to reflect.
That's another correct answer as well. You need time. They need time to reflect, and you also need time to grow your wisdom. So the two parties need time away from each other, and that is correct too. There are many other aspects that we can't dwell into fully in the short time we're given, and it's already 11 o'clock and your time. Okay, so any other questions? I won't go further. The only thing that I could do today is that I introduce you to the idea that as your morality grows bigger to a land that actually can support many more people, you need a bigger food, and that bigger food is generosity. And teaching yourself to cultivate or to develop generosity is very, very hard. And generosity doesn't mean that you just have to be there for them even if they don't listen to you. Sometimes you need to walk away. Sometimes you need to stay quiet. Sometimes you need to stop giving them what their demands are. If you know that if you give them something that is what they demand makes them more unwholesome, if it hurts them, then you should not give it, even though you know it hurts them in the short term. But in the long term, it gives them benefit. So this is your responsibility as a person. It's not always about giving everything that people want, because if you give things that hurts them, it's not good. And I think a lot of parents are doing the wrong thing by giving in to the demands of their children. In Australia and even most Western countries, they keep on talking about being positive. Try to be positive. What does that mean, to be positive? If your children demands a new game, what is positive? What does it mean? Most parents take that to mean, oh, let's just not fight it. Let's just go and buy them a game so that they can stay positive. No, that's not right. All right, because you don't want to be upset in the short term, but you know for the long term it's going to interfere. It's going to make them develop a bad habit of not studying, not making the knowledge and their intelligence grow, not increasing their wisdom. But to be positive in the short term without the discernment, which is to tell the difference between right and wrong, that is no good. It's okay to be negative sometimes. It's okay to be negative in the short term sometimes. So the Western world is too focused on let's just be positive. No, you can't be positive all the time sometimes, because sometimes your effort results in long-term positive, but in the short term it looks negative. So we should not just use one word such as positive or make sure everything stays positive. Be careful on that. That is not bigger morality. And that is not generous either. To give your children what you want is not generosity. This is not my teaching today. This is not what the Buddha taught. Does it make sense? Generosity sometimes looks like not giving into the demand of a spoiled, impure person. So when an impure person, a person with greed, or a person with hate, and this is also related to Mrs. Sharma, if you are hanging around someone who is always wanting something from you, loving kindness sometimes means don't give it to them. It doesn't mean that you have to give it to them for positivity. Because by not giving it to them, you're not feeding their greed. That means you are actually having loving kindness for their future well-being. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
So lots of parents are doing a lot of wrong things to their kids. In the modern day, that's why it's so hard to be a teacher at school. As teachers at school, we're battling to actually try to correct the morality of children. And sometimes parents don't mean to. No parents want to teach their children immorality, but it's the lack of their own clarity in their own understanding of themselves as a human being. That's why I titled this seminar, The Human User Manual. If you want to help others, you need to understand the way you work, the way your heart and mind understand the world. If you want to be a better mother, a better teacher, a better father, you need to understand who you are. You need to grow wisdom, but not before morality, because wisdom needs morality, needs the land to grow on. So if you imagine wisdom as the fruits, as the animals, as the lights and the flourishing fruitfulness on a fertile land, if that's wisdom, then wisdom cannot be there if morality, the land, the good land, is not there. Is that clear? And that's another thing. Many people who go to meditation, like Vipassana, they talk about, I go and do lots of meditation 2 weeks, 10 days. But sometimes you look at the everyday life, the morality is so poor. And Buddha said that if you go and do meditation, which is a step to give you wisdom, meditation needs good morality in order to do in order for your meditation to grow correctly. If you don't have good meditation, if you don't have good morality, it's unlikely that your meditation will be right. The same way, if you want to grow an orange, an apple, or a mango tree, and then you don't have good land, but you say, look, I'm going to grow my mango seed in the desert. Can you grow a mango tree in a desert? And if it does grow, will it come out? Will your mango have flavor? Will it be big? Will it be lots of fruits? Or will it be tasting different to a normal mango? Do you understand? I hope you understand what I'm trying to say to you. Morality is very, very important. And today we learn that as your morality develops, the energy, the fuel behind that is your generosity. And it's a very hard thing to discern correctly what is generous, what is good, what is wholesome generosity, and what is unwholesome generosity. When parents say, look to their child, look, I pay your school fee, I put you to tutoring, I bought you the games, I give you the computer, I pay everything for you. If you do it unwholesomely, then it's unwholesome generosity. Then it actually hurt the children instead. But if you do it wholesomely, which means with morality, then your children will grow well. And whether it's your children or your relatives or your friends, it's the same thing. So it's a big journey for all of us to actually learn about ourselves, to understand and see the nature of our hearts, not just our minds, but our hearts. And also, if you believe in karma, here's another thing that can help Mrs. Sharma's type of question, not just for her, but for everyone. And even for the question that you talk about when your loved one is hurting you. The teaching of karma, which is the fruits of past life or even in this life. When you meet people who are selfish and greedy and have hate towards you, you have to understand that this could be a fruition of your own past action in the past. Buddha says that whatever you plant, if you plant a mango seed, you will get a mango in the future. You plant an apple seed, you will get an apple in the future. So in that moment, if you do nothing wrong, but you meet a person who is greedy with you, who is selfish, even if you cannot find compassion at that moment, ask yourself a question. Perhaps it's something that I'm receiving now as a result of past action which I have forgotten. So let me forgive that person. Lighten my heart. When I can forgive them, whatever they act, you can stay non-reactive. This is where a true meaning of the word non-reactive, Mrs. Sharma. At this moment, you just don't know why this person come at you. But you can say, let me forgive that person because I don't want to burden my heart anymore. I don't want to burden my being by creating more bad karma for me. At the same time, I can also hurt the other person, creating bad karma for the person. If I react bad way, they also have to go more worse. So we are creating by reacting to them, you're going to create more bad situation. So there are many ways in which you can stop yourself from wrongdoing, from unwholesome deeds or speech and action. Karma is another powerful understanding that if you have faith in the teachings of Buddha or any other, teachings of religion that talk about karma, use that to remind yourself. Okay, in that case, the word non-reaction, I would agree with you. But to those who you know and you care, you may be non-reactive at that moment, but when the time is right, go and approach them. Tell them the truth. Tell them in a gentle way. Tell them in a beneficial way. Tell them in a way that has loving kindness in it. Because they may be able to hear you better then. Okay, so if you don't want to walk away from them, you have to increase your morality and then your wisdom. Okay, and I leave you here unless you have any other question. But I'll leave you this one statement from the Buddha. Buddha said that the most trusted of friends, the most trusted of friends are the best of relatives. So sometimes we think about, because they are our relatives, we have to be always giving to our relatives only. We have to trust them only. But I think a lot of you have friends in your life that has helped you a lot more than some of your relatives, right? So Buddha said, don't forget that the most trusted of friends are the best of relatives. And to understand that fully, you have to understand past lives and everything like that. And what I mean by that is that, sometimes your best friends have been your relatives before as well. Just because you have families and relatives in this life doesn't mean that they're the only one. That's your relative in your many, many births in different lives. So forgive people if they do wrong to you, if they're new and they're not that close. Forgive your loved ones who are close to you. Stay non-reactive at the moment when they do wrong, but definitely if they're your loved ones, your close ones, definitely take active actions afterward, finding the right time and deliver the truth. And be careful, the right time is not about the time when it's right for you alone. Sometimes it's not right for, maybe you think I shouldn't say it to them because it's going to hurt them. When you think like that, that may not be the wrong time. Maybe it's just your view is wrong. Okay, some of you, the question of right time is a big question. How to determine morally when the time is right, because you also have to cut down your own greed. Like sometimes a parent will not tell their children what they need to tell them because they may think it's too hard, too painful for the children. Because the love you have wasn't kindness, it's actually selfish. You want the children not to hate you. Therefore, you don't say what you need to do, or say what you need to say, or do what you need to do to the children. Often, when children are treated that way by parents, they're called spoiled children. Okay, so when a parent takes the wrong action and thinking they're generous, it actually turned out to be poisonous. And the results of which are what we call spoiled children most often. And these spoiled children are very hard for other teachers who are non-relatives, non-family, at school, trying to teach them.